Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox, and it is the last of the long forms of the day. So let me take this opportunity to ask that you hit the subscribe button if you're yet to subscribe, help the channel grow, help get the word out there, and to hit the like button on this video. And I'm pretty sure this one will elicit a lot of comments, so I do look forward to reading your comments on this particular subject, because we're ending the day with a marvellous piece of hypocrisy from the Labour Party. Now, this was written yesterday, but I'm going to do it today because this was written before the vote yesterday. So we're going to have a look at this, knowing as we do what the result of the vote was. But I think it'll be interesting to see. So we're going to come in now and see what Anna Sarwar is saying about Scotland's hate crime laws. It's a very weird thing. Let's take a look. So Anna Sarwar is writing this as a piece for the Daily Record. And he's saying that Scotland's hate crime laws have been sunk by SNP incompetence and arrogance. So he's saying the SNP are incompetent and arrogant. Well, I grant you, for once, he's completely right on both points. Although he's not, or at least the SNP, are not the only ones in Scottish politics that are arrogant. Some politicians will vote against common sense and against the will of the people just simply to make a point, or will do so because of their own vested interest. I can't imagine who that might be, Mr. Sarwar. Writing for the Record, the Scottish Labour leader says the implementation of the new Islamic Blasphemy Laws have been undermined by poor communication from SNP ministers. Well, what do we expect? Do we expect any less? They're all too stupid for words anyway. They can barely raise above grunts and whistles. So any kind of sort of elucidation in a literate manner is quite beyond them. Scotland's communities, he says, deserve to know that they have a government on their side and that the law is there to protect them when needed. But it clearly isn't, and they don't. Having laws that protect against a rising tide of prejudice and hate is important. Why? Are you saying that you're vulnerable? Are you saying that you are feeling scared and that people are quite incapable of standing up for themselves? Seems very patronising. But the fact is that the SNP's catastrophic incompetence in implementing the hate crime bill has weakened the cause of social justice. One of the big problems they have is that nobody has defined, first of all, what hate is. And secondly, they haven't defined that truth is the defence. And I've made this before. I could commit slander or libel and I could be taken to court, and my defence is, if what I say is true, then it is neither slanderous nor libelous, depending on whether I say it or write it. So I can make an outrageous claim and the individual can take me to court, and if I can prove that what I've said is true, then I walk free. There is no slander. Now, I think with this hate crime bill, there should have been a safeguard built in that says that if what you say is provably true, then it is not hate. The truth can never be hateful. Regardless, it may be unpalatable, it may be unwanted, it may be unhelpful. But if it's true, and truth is not hate. Lord Bracadale's review of Scotland's hate crime legislation was vital. He says, I know I've been the victim of and have witnessed hate crime myself. That's why Scottish Labour supported hate crime legislation. So he's supporting it because he's been the victim of hate. What hate do you think he's been the victim of? Undoubtedly, it's racism. But here's the really weird thing. Racism was already on the books. You did not need to create this law to stop racism. He said, what we've seen in the last 2 weeks is not what the Scottish Parliament voted for. Yes, it is. It's exactly what you voted for. Do not stand there and say that it's not what you voted for. You read the law. You read what the phraseology of that law was. You understood exactly what was said. You saw that there were no protections. You saw there was no definition of what hate is. You saw that there were so many open goals within this. You saw that sex was not protected. And still you voted for it. And having seen in your own words that it's failing, that it's not what you voted for, why then, Anna Sarwar, if these are your words, did you vote for it again? You said it's not what you voted for, you've seen it in action, and you still voted for it. Either, Anna Sarwar, you are a liar, or you're a hypocrite, or you're a fool. Or possibly some strange admixture of any two or all three of them. But don't come the cod and don't lie to people to say that you're supporting it because you agree with it, and then say that it's not what you wanted, it's not what you voted for. Because if it isn't what you voted for, you had the opportunity yesterday to vote against it, and you chose not to. You chose to back this law. He says, by voting down Labour's attempt to include sex as an aggravating factor, the SNP failed the women of Scotland, and this must be urgently corrected. I'm also going to say, why not protect the men of Scotland as well? Why do we just assume women? If we're going to have sex as an aggravating factor, which I completely agree should be in there, if the law is going to stand as it is, it's got to have that in it. Why are we only saying women? Isn't that sexist in itself? If we're going to have sex as a gender, as a protected thing, it must apply to men and women, surely. To not do so would be going against the very essence of what the bill stands for. Again, are you stupid, hypocritical, or lying? Or do you just not want this to go through? I say, you keep saying it's not what you wanted. You disagree with it. You're now saying that should have been in. You had an opportunity yesterday to change it, and you chose not to. He said, concerns remain over the impact that the recording of non-crime hate incidents will have on human rights, and this must urgently be reviewed. When it comes to the communication of this new act, the SNP's incompetence has only added to the confusion. So, if you're saying that this non-crime hate incident needs to be reviewed, and that this act is incompetent and confusing, your words, why then yesterday, when you had the chance to vote it down, did you not do so? He said SNP government ministers have taken to the airwaves to contradict themselves again and again, tying the message up in knots and undermining public confidence and trust. And as Police Scotland warned the SNP government that they are under-resourced, the SNP decided to blow thousands, hundreds of thousands, on an advertising campaign without clearly explaining what the legislation actually was and what it intended to do. So if you're saying that Police Scotland are under-resourced and that they cannot cope, your words, not mine, you had the opportunity yesterday to vote it down, and yet you did not vote this down. Are you a fool? Are you a hypocrite? Or are you a liar? He said instead of trying to fix the mess, the SNP has buried its head in the sand, refusing to admit that anything is wrong and allowing conspiracy and misinformation to run wild. So you're saying that the SNP government are refusing to admit things are wrong, which means in your view, things are wrong. You had the opportunity yesterday of repealing it, and you choose not to. Are you a liar, a hypocrite, or a fool? And again, there's so many ways. I can go down that. Lies, falsehoods, a failure to understand their own law, no protection, nothing. The wrong laws being applied. He had the opportunity to repeal it, and he didn't. Why did he not repeal the Islamic Blasphemy Law brought in by Humza Yousaf? Tell me why that is, Anna Sarwar. Is it because the boys down the mosque told you not to? I'm coming up. I think it's quite clear that until the indigenous peoples of Scotland take back their own political parties, stop importing foreign cultures, alien concepts, third world ideas of what is right, and start pushing forward their own values and their own historical preferences for what should be, that these things are only going to get worse. Stop pandering to the left. Stop pandering to the foreign invader. Stop pandering to a cult that has no concerns, no heritage in Scotland, and basically is alien to everything that Scotland stands for. This Islamic Blasphemy Act was backed by the SNP, led by a Muslim, and was backed by Labour, led by a Muslim. It's funny. The SNP and Labour, I understand. But the Lib Dems? Or are they just too scared to stand up and say no in case there's a backlash from the boys down the mosque? Thank heavens the Tories do appear to have a pair of balls somewhere between them. Thank you very much for watching. I'm going to stop there. We'll finish this. We'll have a great evening. There'll be some shorts going in through the day, dripping in. And we'll start the whole thing tomorrow, bright and early. Thank you very much. You've been a brilliant audience. I've been me. Let's carry this on. Cheers and goodbye.